Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hello, happy Wednesday. Yay. We're halfway through the week. Yay, yay, yay. Okay, let me say hello to some people. Hi, Adric. He's using the hashtag for Pivot Point Wednesday. Yes. Hi, Auntie. Thank you for being here. Hi, Armando. He's going to put on his tinfoil Washington Commanders hat early. You may need it for this one. This one, whew, it's going to be a ride. Hey, Snowman. Good to see you again. Taking a short hiatus over here real quick in between sports ball. Adric says, give it up for the Dancing Maggies. I can't do that voice very well. Hi, Chef Mike. Oof. This one's going to be a ride. You guys might need more than tinfoil hats. You may need actual seatbelts. So the show itself, hey, Rocky, thank you for being here. The show itself is a little weird and a little tinfoil hat. So, I had to get real weird in the Let's Get Weird section. And the tinfoil hat is off the charts. It is so out there. I may actually need to buy a cute tinfoil hat to put on during these sections because, wow, it's going to be something else. Hopefully y'all can hang in there because, like I said, it's already a little weird, a little tinfoil hat, so it's going to get nuts. Hopefully I tell you something you never heard before. Hopefully it's not brand new stuff. All right, let's put this stuff up here because we're going to just jump right in to the CIA. So the CIA, you know what, Armando? He says, I wonder if you can leave this up on YouTube. I'm a little concerned about the tinfoil hat part and if it's going to stay up. So, when we get to the tinfoil hat part, y'all might want to screen record because it might not be around. All right. Hey, Leon, thanks for being here. All right. So the CIA psionics program. So first of all, psionics, that was their word for psychics, psychiatric, psyche, and pretty much all their metaphysical stuff. They just referred to it as psionics. They wanted to make it sound super scientific, which everything they did was scientific. Okay. So the CIA started their psionics programs during the Cold War. The CIA, I'm already going to lose my voice. See? There's waves coming in my house or something. All right. The CIA conducted experiments to explore the potential of psychic abilities. So one of the first ones that they had was MKUltra. Okay. Leon's covering everything in tinfoil. Dig it. All right. So MKUltra, and what you see up on the screen is just to kind of show these are declassified CIA documents that I'm talking about. You guys can go to CIA.gov under the Freedom of Information Act and find everything I'm talking about. Okay. So I will tell you when there are things that don't have receipts don't have many receipts, or is totally a Maggie theory. I will tell you guys, okay? So MKUltra started in 1953, went through the early 70s. It started because the United States was afraid that the Soviets, the Chinese, the North Korean were all using mind control on prisoners of war. So this is where it started. They wanted to have the best mind control. Hey, Compassionate and Callous, thank you for being here. So MKUltra became really infamous for how unethical it was. So first of all, who they experimented on was hospital patients, prisoners, and private citizens without consent. So and with no oversight, because remember, this is the period of time where, because of the Cold War, the CIA, the FBI, everybody wanted to operate without oversight to prevent other places from gaining intelligence. So they violated human rights, completely disregarded the Nuremberg Code. Like it was pretty bad. This was under CIA Director Alan Dulles when it started. Okay. So they had two goals. The first one was mind control. Okay. So we wanted to develop our own like interrogation, brainwashing, and psychic manipulation tactics. Okay. And then two was the behavior modification. And the behavior modification was the primary objective. They felt pretty confident in their interrogation, brainwashing, and psychic manipulation tactics after experimenting on people, right? But so the methods that they used were like hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal abuse, and sexual abuse. Again, just throw it in there. Here's the documents. You can go look for yourself, okay? They also gave people drugs. They gave them LSD, okay? The goals of using LSD was to break down their defenses and to be able to reprogram the brain, right? Like not just brainwashing, but reprogramming the brain. Oh, yeah. Leon's bringing up Charles Manson. Yeah, we're probably going to get into that at some point. Okay. Now, they had something called, and this is from the movie Clockwork Orange. Okay. But this, if you've ever seen that movie, this reminds me of Subproject 68. Okay. Again, Freedom of Information Act, guys. I'm going to quit saying that. You got it. It's here. Okay. Subproject 68. So, Dr. Ewan Cameron at Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Canada, was doing a sub-project of MKUltra, okay? So the goal was depattern patients' minds using shock therapy, LSD, and repeated recorded messages over long periods of time, okay? So what you see in this image from Clockwork Orange is they're playing repeated recorded messages with visuals over long periods of time, and they have a device on there to hold his eyes open so that he can't look away. And they were pretty grotesque. Okay. Many, if not all of the patients suffered severe and permanent damage. Hypnosis was kind of important to them because they were trying to create the double agents, the Manchurian candidates. That's what they were trying to do. Okay. So MKUltra was terminated in 73. When it was terminated, the records were destroyed under the then CIA director, Richard Helms. Okay. In 1975. So 2 years later, the church committee was put together, and it's not church like a church. It was church because the guy who was leading the investigation, his last name was Church. So the church committee investigated and released all the information they could find to the public. There was actually a clerical error with some of the documents. So they were able to piece together what was going on under MKUltra. And remember, they totally threw out the Nuremberg Code, so you can see why they were trying to destroy all these records, right? So the church committee investigated, released the information to the public. All of the records that they do have are available under the Freedom of Information Act, which is the FOIA. You'll see FOIA on CIA.gov. So you can click on the FOIA and see what's out there. There will still be under the FOIA, when you look for records, there'll be things that are redacted, which just looks like they took a Sharpie and crossed through some things so that you can't read it. Right, Rocky, hence the hippies. Be careful, there's a hippie in here. Okay, so another one that they did under their psionics program was the Stargate project. In Stargate, they really wanted to figure out remote viewing, which is a way to like perceive distant or unseen targets just using your mind. So this went from the 70s. So MKUltra stopped. They started the Stargate project. This went all the way through 1995. Okay, this is not that old. I don't know what they've done since 1995, but if you think they've done nothing, come on. Actually, I do know some of what they're doing. Because they've talked about it a little bit, where they use Wi-Fi routers to create images in the home, so they can use the Wi-Fi signal to map and watch like people move around in the home, movement and things like that. So that's interesting. Anyway, Stargate project, remote viewing. Okay. This was under the Defense Intelligence Agency, the CIA, and involved some branches of the military. So this was a bit of a bigger endeavor. They were studying remote viewing, telepathy, and psychokinesis. So being able to move things with your mind. The whole goal was espionage and military application, which when they say military application, this is like super soldier type stuff. Okay. Their primary focus, though, was remote viewing. That was a big thing. They wanted to be able to use ESP or extrasensory perception to be able to remotely view what was going on and give information. Then nobody's like in danger, because I'm here and I can see things over in Russia or North Korea, right? Rocky says a few months ago heard they could actually see and picture people's thoughts with Wi-Fi and stuff. It's not with Wi-Fi, but yeah, there's some TED Talks on how they're able to use specific scans. You think of like an image, and then it uses a scan, and then it's able to come up on the screen the image that you thought of. So that's what we do know. And they're always ahead of us. You know what I mean? Like, they're always ahead of us. So in Stargate project, what they did was they used people who were already like confirmed psychics and trained military personnel who were trained in remote viewing, right? And so they would use this like coordinate remote viewing, where they would give geographical coordinates and then ask people to like focus their perception in on that space, and like describe those locations or events that were happening at the location. Okay. So they had some specific sub-projects. So there were Scan8 that was in 1972, which Scan8 was supposed to stand for Scanning by Coordinated Remote Viewers. I don't know how they got that, but they actually had a bunch of successful trials where people were able to remotely view. And because they had a bunch of successful trials, it was expanded and then fully funded. They also, as a sub-project, had the SRI, where they had some kind of international involvement, and this was at Stanford. So this image is from Ghostbusters, because the very first Ghostbusters movie, it's showing some of the testing that was going on at Stanford. Now, this is a fictional movie. This is not actual footage, but that's what they were doing at the beginning of the movie, was the research that was for Stargate. So it was in California, obviously. Physicists Russell Targ and Harold Cutoff did most of the original experiments. So that was done at Stanford on students. Okay. But most of it was like this. What does this card say, right? And you just, to try to see if they were psychic. Operation Grill Flame went on from the 70s to the 80s, and they focused on like locating missing persons, describing enemy installations, providing intelligence on potential threats. The results were mixed with that. There was some success and there was some that just wasn't working at all. Adrix says in the movie, the young lady was gifted. That was a great scene, by the way. He's like, yes, can you see through the car? And the boy kept getting him all right, and he kept saying no, because he thought the girl was so cute. It was so cute. Okay. So the US Army at Fort Meade. Now, remember Fort Meade, okay? That's important. Took over from Stanford, and used various code names from then, and then terminated in 95. Okay. The next one is the Gateway, right? Gateway was the CIA and the US Army from the 70s to the 80s. They studied altered states of consciousness for intelligence and psychoenergetic abilities, including remote viewing. So you see how like these are all very, very similar, but remote viewing was always like their big thing. Okay. What they did was they wanted to create altered states of consciousness called a gateway experience. Okay. Now, they did not, as far as the paperwork goes, they did not use LSD. Their particular focus was on using sound frequencies, which we've talked about on my channel. Okay. They use sound frequencies to induce altered states and to enhance cognitive abilities, probably for a military application, right? All of their stuff was heavily based on Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute. Hopefully you guys know who that is. I had to use a very interesting picture because copyright. They use something called binaural beats, which is two different beats going at the same time in your ears, to create varied states of consciousness. Okay. You can put it in the chat if you know who that is. But that's very similar to what they were doing. Okay. The Monroe Institute's initial focus was more on out-of-body experiences, but they kind of moved into, and again, Gateways working with the Monroe Institute. Again, remember the Monroe Institute. Prince Mugo, thanks for being here. He says, I'm here ironically. They're filming a TV series at one of my properties. Will you accept my excuse note? Yes, I will. Yeah. Rocky says various megahertz. Yeah, because different wavelengths and frequencies with different binaural beats induced different states of consciousness. Okay. And at times enhanced cognitive abilities, meaning that you could think better, you could problem solve better, those things, right? The focus of Gateway was to achieve something called hemisync, which is the synchronization of the two hemispheres of the brain. Okay, where they would be, the waves of the brain would be fully in sync because we're thinking and doing different things at different times. And so there's different waves going on. So they wanted to achieve hemispheric synchronization using the binaural beats, because you're playing two different beats, one in one ear, one in the other, to affect the different wavelengths to get them to sync up. So they would have like guided focus levels, and they could enact deep relaxation, like really restful sleep, all the way to a highly expanded awareness. Now, that highly expanded awareness is where we're looking at the psychoenergetic stuff, the psionics. Why do they always want to mow? Oh, wait, that's a motorcycle. Anyway, and remote viewing and things like that, right? They wanted the remote viewing, but then they also wanted something called OBEs, which is out of body experiences. This is a little bit different than remote viewing, right? This is where your soul, spirit, astral body, whatever you want to call it, travels through space and time while your physical body stays put to go gather intelligence, right? For espionage, right? Oh, there's comments. Rocky says those tower things do that. It's slow on Sunday, which is why it's so calm. But come Monday, it's wake up, house, and go. Yeah. Rocky said they slow down the oscillations on Sunday, so it's calm. Then on Monday, it's getting your A up and going to work. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I would not be surprised. All right. So they wanted OBEs for astral projection. So projecting your astral body, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, your consciousness, to other locations while your body stays still, or to different realms. Now, there is documentation out there. I'm saying documentation, not a CIA document, but there's documentation out there about people who did the astral travel that met with entities in different realms that we can't perceive when we're in our physical body. So those are interesting reads too. They created heightened consciousness and increased people's intuition. So, that was kind of neat, all without LSD. In 1983, Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell audited the program. Okay. Now, what he wrote was his analysis on the program, and that's what's been declassified under the Freedom of Information Act. It is called Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Project. And again, that's by McDonnell. So he audited the entire program. Now, when this was first declassified, and I didn't have time to check today, but the last I knew, page 25 was missing of the report. Okay. Now, if this is something you go look up, and you're super interested in it, and you really want to know what's on page 25, I do have it. So I can share. They may have updated it though, so check first. But if page 25 is still missing, let me know. I'll email it to you. All right. Leon says fourth dimension outside of religion's language. Yeah. Okay. So McDonnell wrote the analysis and assessment of the Gateway Project, right? So that's doggy stop. That's what you can get from CIA.gov under the Freedom of Information Act, right? And if you need page 25, I got you. Okay, this is not page 25, by the way. So it's a long report, longish. It's not like, Project 2025, but it's a read. And interestingly enough, a lot of the things in the science that he saw, he's writing handwritten notes of what he saw, and as he's, trying to understand what's going on, there's these handwritten notes. And now the key findings that he found that are interesting for us, right? Hemisync can happen, and it can enhance cognitive abilities and intuition. So they proved that. The second thing that they proved was that consciousness can extend beyond the limits of the physical brain and body. So astral travel was proven. And thirdly, there is a unified field that connects all beings. Now, he didn't say humans, people. He said beings. Now, what exactly he meant by saying beings, I don't know. I just know that he said there is a unified field that connects all beings, and he referred to it as the absolute. Now, that's what this is a picture. It's him trying to hand draw the absolute. Okay. Now, of course, the government had other like super soldier programs, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, has stuff going on all the time. It's mostly on human performance, like combat capabilities, safety, effectiveness. They have things like Project Avatar, the use of exoskeletons. They do give people performance drugs and supplements. And then like genetic biomedical enhancements and neural engineering, all of that stuff is available too. You can go find receipts on all of that. Hi, Cynical. Thank you for being here. Hi, Rael. Thank you for being. You guys are going to have to catch up at like 2 times speed and get through it fast. Because we literally just went over all of the psionics programs. Okay. All right. So now, one of the things I said in the title was the CIA psionics and the gifted individual. And there's a reason. Okay. So like movies and shows, in the 80s and the early 90s, there's a lot of them that depict gifted children being recruited for secret government work. And actually in the top left, what you'll see is an article where there literally were teenagers who were working at the NSA. So, it's interesting to me that it became a thing, right? Like we really wanted to talk about how these kids were like spies or working for government agencies around that time, right? Now, there's a theory that I recently heard, which put me on to, I mean, I've been into this stuff, but it put me on to doing this show when I heard this theory, and I heard it on social media. Okay. But there's the theory that children who were in the gifted program, that they were looked at because the thought was that they possessed latent psychic abilities. And so they were sort of looked at to try to funnel them maybe into some of these programs, and that the media and the shows and all that were making it look super cool to be like, a 9-year-old spy or a 13-year-old spy. So that's the theory that was in social media, right? So that's what it made me think of. Well, I've heard of other things that the government has had with kids. So this is a little bit stranger, okay? Oh, okay. So Rael says there was a show on Amazon called Hannah, and it was a movie too that made girls into soldiers. Yeah, I mean, those kind of shows became really popular, interestingly enough. You know what I mean? Now, when you go to look at what some of these psionic programs did with kids, there is a lot less documentation. Not that there's none, There's a lot less documentation and there's a lot more anecdotal documentation. So there's the caveat there. The stuff I was talking about before, go to the CIA, it's right there. Okay, CIA.gov. This stuff, there's a little less information. So we haven't even gotten to the let's get weird, but it's going to get weird, okay? So if anybody's ever watched the show Stranger Things, supposedly that was based off of either the Monroe Institute or the Montauk Project. So, that's where my mind went when we're talking about the gifted and talented program funneling kids into these psionics programs. Is that high big M0E89? But is that supposed to be Big Mo or Bigum? Either way, I like it. And they're here for it. Okay, love it. Okay, so supposedly, at least the first season of Stranger Things was supposed to be based on what went on either at the Monroe. Remember when I said remember Monroe and I said remember Montauk and I said remember Fort Meade? Okay, so, but there's less receipts. So here's me just saying what's out there. I'm just reporting on what's out there, right? So here are some facts. Is Bigum? Okay, so there is a paranormal training program in Montauk. That is true. That is true, and you can find it, right? It's a possible funnel of children for MKUltra or Stargate. That's the theory. The theory is that they were researching indigo children, which hopefully you guys know what that is. If you don't, throw it in the chat, and I'll talk about indigo children. That they were looking for kids with heightened psychic abilities or latent psychic abilities and spiritual awareness. Again, that's the theory. All right, so I look up the Monroe Institute. What did they do with kids? Right? That's what do y'all got going on with kids, right? Now, what they say is that they hosted family workshops that include children. Okay. Techniques for focus, anxiety reduction, increasing learning capabilities, were all taught and used in local schools at some point. So they were using their stuff from the Monroe Institute. And remember what Monroe Institute was doing for the government. They were using focus, emotional states, heightened learning capabilities, right? In the local schools, they were teaching the kids that at some point, right? Now, here's some, cynical says, I was just about to say indigo children. Rocky says, I haven't heard the term indigo children since 2010 or 12. Yeah. Maybe we ought to talk about Dolores Cannon and the waves too, if you guys don't know about that, because that kind of fits nicely with indigo children and crystal children, right? So here's some info on these theories. Like, let's just throw in some stuff out. There's a lot of online forums or like on social media where occasionally some anonymous contributor claims that they have knowledge or even like personal testimony from these children's projects, either through the Montauk Project, the Monroe Institute, or MKUltra. There's books and writings on the subject, but they're criticized, they're downplayed, they're dismissed. You know how that goes, right? There's a book that looks really interesting that's probably going to go on my book list. And it's called The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time. And it's by Preston Nichols and Peter Moon. So they did a lot of research into the Montauk Project that was going on there. Again, all of this is happening in Montauk, New York. Monroe Institute, all of that, all of it, Fort Meade, everything is in Montauk, New York. Okay. except for when Stanford and California took over for a little bit, and then Fort Meade took it back. Okay. There are some personal testimonies about the stuff that went on in those projects. Joe McMoneagle, which is McMoneagle, gives testimony, and Ingo Swan with 2 N's. Personal testimonies. Rael says that was a book I never got my hands on years ago. I should have. Yeah. Now, this is the one. This is the one I really want. And you guys see how it says Yahweh there? And anybody else notice, and look it up if you want to. That picture looks a lot like the Egyptian god Aten, which I've talked about before, right? All of this is eventually going to connect together, just so that you guys understand. But this is called The Keys of Enoch, this book. And these 2 people, James and Desiree Hurtak, which Hurtak, they did so much research. In fact, James Hurtak is a double PhD. Desiree Hurtak has a PhD. They have multiple degrees. They've done tons and tons of research into the experiments and different things, and it's all in this stinking book. This book is super hard to get your hands on. I think there's 2 copies on Amazon. One is used. I hate doing used books like this because people write in them and tear them up. I want this book so bad. But it's $200. Somebody needs to put my Cash App in the chat. Help me. We can go over this book, right? Because it's not just that stuff. Like this, it's called The Keys of Enoch, right? Look at this. Like, it has all of this information that we want. Yeah, want it so bad. Okay, Snowman says, I smashed the like button, just got done with my game. Thanks, Snowman. Hopefully everybody smashes the like button. Leon says, our government clocks children all the time when they enter school. They definitely do. If we know this is true, then my simple conclusion is that past that belief, there's nothing but denial. Yeah, totally get you. Totally get you. All right, so I think as of today, let me put it this way about this book. Yesterday when I checked, it was $197. Today it was $230 because it may be the literal only copy. And wouldn't that be such a cool book to go through on this channel? I'm manifesting or whatever. I'm manifesting. All right, so let's talk about the Montauk Project, right? I mean, we were talking about kids, so let's talk about the Montauk Project. Let's do it. Oh man, look at that. Armand's already helping out, getting me closer to that book. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I already hit the Cash App. That's exciting. Guys, totally, when I get it, we're going to go over this book. Okay, Montauk Project, stay on track. Stay on track. Oh my gosh. Adrian, thank you for being here. It's now, okay, so it was $230 this morning. It's $349 right now. See what I'm saying about how difficult it is to get this book? Whew. I have to sell a kidney. All right, Montauk Project. The Montauk Project was not necessarily attached to the Institute because you can't find where it was or was not. So might have been, again, it's all in Montauk, okay? This went on from the 60s to the 90s. Again, right. And think Freedom of Information Act, they're not going to release stuff that's any newer than, like, I think it's 25 years. So we don't know what they've been doing since like 95. Is that 25 years? Yeah. Okay. So we don't know what they've been doing since then. So the Montauk Project, 1960s to 1990s. Now, the Montauk Project was a possible continuation of the Philadelphia experiment. If you guys don't know what that is, just a quickie, quickie, quick. Yeah, Adrian confirmed there's only one. Man. Okay. The Montauk Project was a possible continuation of the Philadelphia experiment where the government was testing invisibility and time travel. And so they were doing experiments on the USS Eldridge where they were trying to like fold time and like go take this whole aircraft carrier and just like go from one place to way over there in a short amount of time. Okay. And there are some, well, at least one firsthand account testimony. There are some letters that a guy wrote because a lot of people had a lot of damage from personal damage from those experiments. So that's the Philadelphia experiment. Okay. So the Montauk Project, hi, Grab Second Gear. Thank you for being here. Yeah, he said the disappearing Navy ships. Yeah. So the Montauk Project was about like mind control, dimension hopping is what they called it, and time travel. So it was a possible extension of the Philadelphia experiment. Now in Montauk, there's no documentation for that, and I'm going to tell you that again, that there's no documentation, but there's a theory that there were a lot of missing children during this time. Yeah, Adrian says personal damage equals folks got jacked the F up. Yeah, there was like physical damage, mental damage. Rocky says that's the one where people were stuck in the walls. Yes. Yeah, that's the Philadelphia experiment. Okay, so since, when the Montauk Project was going on and the Monroe Institute, and there's something going on with the kids and yada, yada. So I just looked up like population, right? So in 1935, because I wanted to go before any of this stuff ever happened. And right, like Fort Meade opened in 1945. So 1935, the population of Montauk was 650. In 45, the Air Force Base opened. In 1950, the population's 1,200. I mean, that's 15 years later. And after an Air Force Base, still really small town. You know what I mean? In 1970, the population was 3,000. Okay. Small town, right? Small little Air Force town. So then I looked up from 1945 to 1990, how many missing children's cases were there? And what I found out was they didn't make nor keep any records when a child went missing. So there's no records to pull. So don't know if a single one went missing or if 1,000. They did not, the police, no one, the Air Force Base, nobody made a record nor kept a record if a child was missing. And think about that. I mean, sometimes a kid's walking home from school and just, has a brain fart and goes to their friend's house, and, kids do dumb stuff and they're missing for like an hour. You know what I mean? So we can't ever say there were zero reports of missing children, but there literally exist zero reports of missing children. So another thing in that area was something called the Montauk Monster. And I'm going to tell you an interesting little related thing. So a lot of times when I'm doing research for these shows, I will go into ChatGPT to like double check dates or pull dates that I don't remember, double check theories. Like when I make my notes, my initial notes, my draft notes, I'll go into ChatGPT because, it has access to all the historical documents. Now, the difficulty with ChatGPT is that sometimes it's wrong. And I now make it a personal challenge to make ChatGPT apologize to me when it's wrong. And this next segment, it had to apologize to me. Um, it originally told me something happened in 1983 and then said it was 2008. And then when I dug into the programming and why it made that error, it kept giving me circular reasoning. But I thought, 1983. Okay, I'm going to hold on to that, right? Adrian's the show off. Well, just remember, it only has access to what it has access to, right? ChatGPT tells me it's excuses all the time. But anyway, so even though there's no records of missing children, okay, there were so many missing children that people talked about the Montauk monster. Okay. This is why I think ChatGPT conflated 1983, because I asked about when they found the Montauk monster, and what it gave me was when people started talking about the Montauk monster. But the Montauk monster supposedly stole children. Okay. So there was enough missing children that there was this whole like mythology about a monster stealing children. We just don't have any numbers. Then in 2008, there was a news article about the Montauk monster washing ashore. Now, I'm going to put the picture of what washed ashore up on the screen. If you guys get easily grossed out, you don't want to see a dead animal or a dead monster, whatever, look away and I'll tell you when it's off. It's pretty gross. I didn't look at it super duper close. The face, yes, but none of the rest of it. So you guys have been warned. Okay. So we're going to go straight from Yahweh to a dead monster. Okay. So this animal, and nobody knows the size actually. This animal washed ashore in 2008. The two women who found it immediately said it's the Montauk monster. They called the authorities, but not before they took a picture of it. The authorities came in and said, oh, it's not a Montauk monster. But then when biologists and different people said, okay, we'll hand it over, we'll figure out what it is, it was, oh, oops, we lost it. Gosh, sorry. So Adrian says, I wonder where my dog went. Now, the interesting thing that you'll notice if you look at the face, which if you're watching on your phone, it's probably hard to see. So I'll just tell you, if you look at the face, it has a beak. So when you first look at it, you're like, oh, it's like it's got a doggy tail, kind of thing. And it's bloated. Obviously, it's been wet. And the paws are not doggy paws. And it has a beak. So, the government came and said it's a raccoon. How about you guys? Have never seen a raccoon with a beak, but it was dubbed the Montauk monster. Now, that may have just been like a throwback to, in the 1980s when they had, the Montauk monster was going to steal children. And so this wacky, weird thing that washes up on the shore, they just dub it the Montauk monster. But the government came and got it and disappeared it. And we're going to talk about why in a little bit. Because not only did Montauk have the Montauk Project, the Monroe Institute, the Stargate Project, and MKUltra, they also had something else. Again, remember how small I told you this town was? Oh, and they also had Fort Meade, but they had one other thing. So, in this little tiny town. Okay. All right. Oh, actually, I'll just tell you now. There's enough suspense in the show. In Montauk, there was also a governmental animal testing facility called Plum Island that is super secretive. It kind of looks like the Pentagon. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about it too, because weird stuff goes on. And so the other theory about the Montauk monster is that it was some sort of experimentation that was going on at Plum Island. Don't know. But this joint, Montauk, New York, is hopping. was happen, from the 50s through the 90s with secret governmental things going on, right? And Rocky says chupacabra, maybe, maybe, maybe. It looks like something off of Fantastic Beasts, Ryle says. Yeah, Adrian's agreeing with chupacabra. It could be, right? Big Mo says it doesn't look like it's from here. Rocky says genetic splicing. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like, right? And so, that was the other theory, that it was something that was made at Plum Island, right? Again, you can look up Plum Island and there's documents, well, what you can find, because again, it's a very private, high clearance place for animal testing, right? Now, you guys know I like to give you, for those of you who like the rabbit holes and the conspiracy theories, I like to give you a little something you can sink your teeth into later. If you want to go deeper, study not just Montauk, New York's missing children, but the orphan trains that ran out of New York and all of the missing children. And just as a little spoiler alert, this is the 1800s and there were 250,000 children. Okay, so that's something to look at, right? All of the missing children of New York and the orphan trains. If you guys want to talk orphan trains sometime, we can do that too. Okay, so were the gifted programs like funneling kids into these programs like they're saying on social media? I'm not going to show you any of the social media videos, mostly because I did so much research trying to make sure all my facts were correct and get the visuals for this. I never went back and looked at the social media, but because all this other stuff kind of showed it. But also I can remember being a child and these men that were in suits, and one lady, I think, came to the school and were testing some of us on specific cognitive abilities. And one of them that I remember clearly was speed reading, where they would, they had those overhead projectors, right? They would put it up and then just move it out of the way. It was like super fast. And then you had to tell them what the story was about. And I can remember them being very interested in how fast I could speed read. That's why I can remember that specific test. But I remember those things myself. And interestingly enough, all through my teen years, my plan was to go into the military. But where I got that idea from, I don't know. And then I didn't. So it was just interesting because I had my own like anecdotal story about, gifted and talented and having some people come from somewhere to test things. Adrian says it's the demon chihuahua. Leon says New York used to have 50,000 children pretty much missing every year. Hello. Rael says Seinfeld said his dad was on an orphan train. Could be. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't. It was primarily the ones on the orphan trains were immigrants, Black children, and Native American children. If you look at the pictures, there's some white kids or white passing kids, but it was primarily immigrants, immigrant children, Black children, and Native American children. And they were shipped out to the Midwest to families who needed help on the farms. Again, this is the North during the times of slavery in the South. So, you're going to get your free work however you can. All right. Leon says New York and Georgia used to take children from parents who committed crimes before the children used to pass away in prison with their parents. Leon says those children were Irish on the train. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. Okay. So that is the gifted and talented. Now, we have made it to the let's get weird portion, as if the demon chupacabra and all of the governmental programs were not weird enough. All right. So let's get weird, guys. I hope you're ready. All right. So I'm going to kind of harken back to the unified field that McDonald talked about when he talked about Gateway. Okay. That they proved the unified field. Okay. Now, the unified field theory was first posited by Einstein. He said there's some unified field. And so even though I'm sure you can't read this because it's too small, it's like every force and field kind of connects and plays into each other. And then it all just sort of unifies on one plane. Oh no, Rocky's battery's going to die. Dang it. So what Einstein said is the four fundamental forces of nature are unified on that particle level. Okay. Gravity, electromagnetics, the weaker nuclear, which is not weak, by the way, guys. Weak nuclear is needed for stars, and strong nuclear. So that those four forces of nature come together at the particle level, like all things come together at the particle level. That's the unified field. Now, McDonald said that it was proven, right? And he called it the absolute. Okay. Physicists nowadays call it the quantum field, right? Where everything is attached at the quantum level. There was no such thing as quantum during Einstein's time. So he wouldn't have been saying that. Adrian says, I'm going to get me one of them demon bird-faced dogs. All right. So to get weird, okay, so I'm thinking about unified field theory, right? And then I'm thinking about the collective unconscious, right? Because you guys know, people who watch me, when I talk about the collective unconscious, I also relate it to the quantum field, right? It's the place where everything connects that we can't physically see. It's outside of our physical perceptions, right? So the collective unconscious, just to recap for some people, is a shared mind containing all universal experiences, memories, and symbols across all cultures and epochs. So the way it shows is like the top of the iceberg is your personal consciousness. It's like where your ego and stuff is, where the you is that you project out here. Everything under here is your personal unconscious. It's the things that happened under the surface, right? It's the subconscious, the unconscious, your biases, those kind of things are all your archetypes, your shadow. All of that is in your personal unconscious. The collective unconscious is everything around that, right? Like it's all the water. So it's just two people here. Right. And so everybody's personal unconscious dips into the collective unconscious. So that's what that is. That's a Jungian thing, right? Now, in theosophy and metaphysics, they call that the Akashic records. So if you guys, this is one I haven't brought up before that I remember. Rocky just said quantum entanglement. Yeah. So if you've never heard of Akashic records before, and this comes out of metaphysics and theosophy, which is theological philosophy. It's easier to say theosophy. The Akashic records are the repository of all events, actions, thoughts, and experiences throughout history and existence. And its basis is in ancient Eastern belief systems. So to me, it sounds like all these things are the same thing, right? We just keep using different words. So it's the unified field, the absolute, the collective unconscious, the quantum field, the Akashic records. It's all the same thing, right? So I'm just going to call it the collective unified records because it's all of that. Now, here's where we're going to get weird. Okay. You guys heard me talk about the other day that humans' creativity, what we create, are either replicas or they are a prosthesis to make our life easier or better, right? So it's a replica in that it's music we heard in our head, or it's a painting or a picture of something we're seeing, or it's a painting or picture of something in our mind, or it's, something we've experienced. It's a story that was in our thoughts. And so we create these replicas. But we even create replicas of like our dining room table, and our plates are replicas of flat surfaces that we used to eat on. But now we just have them in our house. It makes things way easier. So we create these replicas, but we also create prosthesis, right? To make things easier. Like, I'm going to use an example somebody else had said, like, it's much easier to use a screwdriver than my fingernail, right? It's much easier to use a rake than to scrape my hands through things, right? So we create either a replica of some experience or need, or we have a prosthesis to make life easier. Now, what I've said recently is that when they created computers, it was our brain prosthesis. It can cognate faster, it can compute faster, it can problem solve faster. So it does all those brain type computing functions much faster, much more efficiently. And so it became our brain prosthesis. Now, recently, with the advent of AI, what I stated was AI is our mind prosthesis, right? So this is where our thinking, this isn't like mathematical equations, timeline make, it's not the problem solving and computing, it's the thinking, right? They're having more of a discussion. I'm asking questions, you're giving me nuanced answers. You're trying to use an algorithm to figure out which way am I going with this? What information do I want? What's the connection? The AIs are finally able to translate language because they can take into account nuance and slang and things like that, where computers, even supercomputers, were not real great at translating language. But AI, they can. And actually, AI started with algorithms, finding algorithms and translating language. Okay. So the AI that we have now is our mind prosthesis. So it got me to thinking, when I'm thinking of the collective unified records field, it's going to be its name. It's the CURF, CURF, Collective Unified Records Field. I'm thinking about that, and we created a prosthesis of that, and we called it the internet. Hi, I am Just Jules. Thank you for being part of the replay gang. That's awesome. So the internet is the prosthesis of the collective unified records field. Now, anytime you make a prosthesis, it's not even close to as actually good as the real thing, right? Like, it can create some efficiency, but it's probably not corrective, right? But think about the internet. It's a collective memory, shared knowledge and creativity and all those kind of things. It's an information archive, past, present, and potential future. It's very much like the collective unified records field. Okay. Now, here's a problem. Here's the problems when you use a prosthesis when you didn't actually need one. Okay. Big Mo says we create replicas of other dimensions. I'm talking about like human inventions, which some of the Stargate program had some actual Stargates. So, I mean, and we're trying to figure out Stargates to create like controlled black holes. So, I mean, maybe, but when you make a prosthetic, I mean, think about a prosthetic hand. You have some efficiency and maybe even the hand is stronger than your original hand, and so there's some part of you that might think it's a little bit better, but it's not better than the original, okay? So when we start thinking AI is better, than humans, or computers are better than humans, they're not, because it's a prosthetic version of it, right? So the problem with using a prosthesis when you didn't actually need one: psychological dependence. So you lose strength and skill and confidence, So if we should have been using our mind to tap into the kerf, um, but instead we're using the internet, we're going to lose our strength and skills and ability and confidence to do so. Um, Leon says, I need those ghost in the shell eyes. um, Decreased function, right? You lose the function and ability to be able to access the curve if the internet is just right there and it's super easy and I can use that, right? Like, think about if you're in a wheelchair and you didn't actually need it. Over time, it's going to become difficult to walk, right? You get over reliance, so you lose your adaptability. If it's not on the internet, if I can't find it on the internet, it doesn't exist, kind of thing. And then social disorder, like, it becomes part of your identity. Like, using the internet is the right way. The other way, be it shadow work or meditation, deep thought, daydreaming, manifestation, whatever words you want to use, the other way, the other thing is wrong, or it's unintelligent, or it's unsafe, or it's dumb, even though it's like a natural part of being a human. And we have so many ancient texts of people accessing this kind of thing. Like, I was given divine knowledge. I heard God say, all of these things about this divine knowledge and information. We just don't use it anymore, right? We have this over reliance and we feel like we're such scientific creatures and technologically advanced creatures. That's the internet. Okay. So that was the weird. Hopefully that wasn't too weird. Rael says mental atrophy. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even it's not even mental. I mean, let's suss this out, Rael. Because the computer is your brain prosthesis. The AI is your mind prosthesis. The internet is your collective unified records field prosthesis. So mental atrophy would come from using AI too much, right? Cognitive atrophy would come from using computers too much. Spiritual, astral, I kind of like that. Astral atrophy. That's hard to say, but yeah, like our connection to that becomes atrophied, right? Like there's some pineal gland stuff, that goes on, becomes calcified and stuff. So it could be astral atrophy. What do you think of that? What do you think about that? Rael says influencers themselves have contributed to this over-reliance of devices and the internet. Yeah, I mean, obviously. And what are we doing right now? You know what I mean? Like, but hopefully there's benefits to this one. Big Mo says, so by creating the internet, we're not paying attention to the real thing. Yeah, becoming less psychic of a people overall. Correct. And there's a lot of scientific studies that show that human beings are losing their psychic abilities, but we also are very dismissive of any type of psychic ability. That's not science. That's woo-woo and blah, blah, blah. Adrian says, Big Mo, we become dependent on instant answers and processes instead of digging for the truth. Right. Like that's that cognitive atrophy. You know what I mean? The computer caused cognitive atrophy. The AI caused mental atrophy. And the internet is causing astral atrophy, spiritual atrophy. Okay. Now we're going to get really, really strange. I hope you guys are prepared. Woo. All right. So you're getting the tinfoil hat warning, right? The term refers to the practice of wearing headgear consisting of metal foil to block mind reading or mind control, right? Someone wearing a tinfoil hat or is a tinfoil hat means that they have paranoia or belief in conspiracy theories, especially involving government surveillance or paranormal beings. Are you guys ready for this? Again, this is the section where I'm not sure how long this video that, the YouTubies are going to let me keep it up. I may get problems. Please, none of you report me, but there may be problems. Okay. Rael says, yeah, the information either contributes to growth or regression. So depending on content you listen to, you can either help you grow spiritually or break you down spiritually. Oh, I totally agree. It's kind of like there are some learning programs that kids can be on with screen time for periods of time that are actually really beneficial and helpful. And then other things that just degrade. Leon says, yeah, it's hard to talk to everyday people. They just want to watch the NFL, NBA, CNN, any combo with the tinfoil hats. Oh my gosh, I hope you're ready. I'm actually got a secondary warning here, guys. If anybody has vermophobia, parasitophobia, or entomophobia, meaning if you got problems with bugs and gross things with bugs, you're going to have to click off or not look, maybe just listen. I don't know. Big Mo agrees, by the way, Leon. So you've been warned now at the beginning, in the middle, at this section. There's 2 warnings. Can't say I didn't warn you. Okay? All right. So if the CURF, the Collective Unified Records Field, exists, right? Which I think it does. I mean, it's been proven through science. The military proved it through their experimentation. It's been around and known for a ridiculously long amount of time, looked at from psychology, looked at from quantum physicists, looked at from philosophers. Like, how many ways can we say that it exists? So I believe it does. If it exists and it's kind of like the internet, then it can be hacked. Right? So here's my thought that's got this tinfoil hat going. It can be hacked. Okay? Just like the internet. Oh, Leon's for it. He says, let's go. Cynical says they turn into NPCs. And maybe that's what it is. Like if you shut off your astral body, because I literally said spirit or astral. Maybe that's how you do turn into an NPC. Big Mo says strange is good. All right. So if the CURF exists, which I think it does, it could be hacked. Okay. Just like the internet. And they call those things viruses or bugs, right? But for the CURF, the interface itself is biological, right? Like we are in a biological body, right? Like that touches the unified field and kind of goes into it, right? So the interface itself is biological, okay? And I am not a computer person, so stick with me, okay? So to be hacked, it would have to be biological, right? To hack the interface, okay? So that when the internet is hacked, they call it bugs, okay? So let's talk. Let's talk about it. All right, so this is a picture of a praying mantis whose bottom part is being held underwater while it frantically holds onto that finger for dear life because praying mantises can't swim and they drown easily. Okay. Praying mantises get a parasitic worm that makes it commit suicide. The Spinochordortus tellini, right? So this worm will get inside of a praying mantis, and when it's ready to lay eggs, it neurologically hacks the praying mantis to make the praying mantis jump into a body of water so that the worm can come out, because it can only come out in water. So the worm can come out and lay eggs, but that kills the praying mantis. So it neurologically hacks the praying mantis and makes it kill itself. Okay. Compels it to jump into the water so the worm can come out and lay the eggs. Mantises can't swim, they drown. Now, when biologists and entomologists study this, they do things like this. If they think a praying mantis has a worm, they will hold its bottom half under the water, and then the worms start coming out. And it always looks like way more worm than can fit in that body. I don't know how it happened, but okay. Everybody with me? We're going to get there, guys. This one's really weird. Leon says they turn into Terminators. Oh, and he knows about the worms. Yeah. Adrian says tortellini. No more of that for me. It's not tortellini. It's tellini. It's a little different. Okay. So now, some of us who are into conspiracy theories or look at these kind of things and try to study them to see if there's any truth has maybe heard about celebrities, child stars, even former politicians talking about gold juice and the Black Eye Club. You guys heard about this? Right? So, oh, Leon says, check out bears. They get giant worms. So do we. Big Mo says, can't shut off the astral body, but it can be disconnected from interface with the greater astral plane. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's us turning it off, right? Unfortunately. So there are conspiracy theories about celebrities. There are also some child stars and former celebrities who talk about it themselves. They give testimony and witness to the Black Eye Club and partaking of something called the gold juice. Now, a lot of times, they also talk about pizza party guys, and we'll talk about that another time because I know what that is, and I can give you all of the receipts. Anyway, I, for one, have wondered what that is because when I see the one eye, black eye, I always think about lobotomies because if you access the brain through the orbital socket, it'll create a black eye on one eye. Okay. I mean, it could be plastic surgery, I guess, but it's generally only like one eye and nothing else, right? There's literally no other injuries, so it's not a fight. They always have some excuse, right? But isn't it weird the prevalence of black eyes amongst, elites, celebs, child stars, and it's just the one black eye, right? And lobotomies cause black eyes. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they've had lobotomies. Obviously, they would probably be nonverbal if they did. But let's talk about something called the hydatid worm. You guys with me? Okay. Hold on to your hats. Here's where you need your seatbelts. The hydatid worm. It lives in water. It can get into human brains. When it gets into the human brain, it causes hallucinations and delusions. And these parasites can take over an entire nervous system, much like the Spinochordortus tellini of the praying mantis. This is a hydatid worm. And it's a specific hydatid worm because like tapeworms are also hydatid worms, or hydatitoid worms. But this hydatid worm is very specific. So lives in water. It has been known to get in human brains. It's not super easy to get in their brains though. Causes you to see things, causes you to think different things, and it can take over the whole nervous system of the host body. Okay, Leon, you better hold on. You keep supporting me in this. All right. The untranslated biblical word for water is hydatid. Okay. So in biblical times, people were baptized in hydatid, and then they see the Holy Spirit and hear God. I'm not saying the Black Eye Club has been injected with hydatid worms, but it seems like, and there are things out there, I did not pull them, can if we have to. After these singular black eyes, you will notice with a lot of these celebrities huge changes in behavior, even mannerisms, actions, and even their looks will start to change a little bit after this black eye. But that's why I say I don't think it's plastic surgery, because it's one eye and there's no other bandages. So again, I'm not saying that they have been injected through the orbital into the brain with hydatid. Their looks change, behavior changes, right? Might explain why some politicians and celebs, whatever, when they are giving speeches, they might glitch. Again, it's taking over. Okay. Armando, hold on, Armando. It's almost done, I swear. But I told you the tinfoil hat. Hey, Leon, thank you for the Cash App. You guys are getting me closer and closer to that, but I told you the tinfoil hat had to really go there. Okay. Cynical says, can they be digested? Well, like the tapeworm is a hydatitoid, so I'm going to go with mostly, probably some yes and some no. But this is where I will also tell you that most everywhere else in the world encourages their citizenry to do regular cleanses like antiparasitics, like get some like supplements and do a parasite cleanse. It's very, very common everywhere else in the world that you just generally do parasite cleanses. And in the United States, it is extraordinarily frowned upon to do parasite cleanses. It is dismissed. It's made fun of. It's said to be, ridiculous and some witchcraft or whatever you want to call it. So you can buy them. They're not illegal to buy, antiparasitics, but I would say much like a tapeworm, they're where they get until you get rid of them. Okay. So this might explain the changes in behavior, the changes in looks, the selling your soul mantra, people glitching on camera. If, maybe there's a hydatid worm, right? Now, what is the gold juice? Because the Taryn Manning, by the way, actress, well known, she talks openly about the Black Eye Club, but even more openly about the gold juice. You can find internet or interviews online about this. Okay. Imperfect Dionysus says, get diatomaceous earth. Food grade is what he's saying. And mix with a wooden spoon and water. Think of me later. Yeah, there's some, see, I knew what you meant. There's also some supplements that you can get that worked pretty well. Just so you guys know, though, you're gonna be in the bathroom a little bit because it's clearing out all of the parasites. So, you can also take, like, there's certain baths that are, detox baths that have, like, they have clay, me me Epsom salts, and I think, like, a little bit of borax, and you just soak a little bit, and if you have parasites in your skin that shouldn't be there, they'll come out. Drink ancient seafood shells. Yes. Anyway, okay. So the gold juice. All right. Well, an interesting side note. Okay. By the way, if you want to look up gold juice and ritual, like this is just a little tiny screenshot. But there's Taryn Manning talking about that's how you sell your soul is you have to drink the gold juice. Okay. Um, and other than people going, I think she's nuts, there's nothing out there she's doing anything that's crazy. So anyway, Jim Carrey's talked about some of the stuff about how to sell your soul, and it has to do with the gold juice. So, just interesting to note that the hydatid cysts, which are the bubbles that are full of hydatid eggs, look like gold juice. So you'll see in that upper right-hand corner is actually in a surgical suite where a hydatid cyst was removed. And then there's like a drawing of it because that's all the eggs are kind of in there. So a hydatid cyst, which are bubbles that are full of eggs, look like they're kind of golden and juicy. And I'm not saying that is the gold juice. I'm just saying it's a gold juice. And it has something to do with the hydatid worm, which was promoted to baptize in the Old Testament or New Testament. Sorry, New Testament. Jesus, John, those guys. Okay. So, Leon says, does these things have FDA approval? If you're talking about the parasite cleanses, probably not. You're going to get those at like health food stores. Rael says, oh, yeah, you will be in El Baño. Yes, 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 yes. Dionysus says, yes, it's very high in silica. And it's good against parasites, bugs. It's good for collagen, bones, blood, heart, etc. By the way, you cannot use, I always struggle with that word. There, stop moving. The diatomaceous earth, that if you have any type of anemia, especially copper anemia, because things that are high in collagen can mess up your copper. So just be careful if you have problems with anemia on taking things high in collagen. Dionysus says it's used to deworm animals and is also good for humans, also used in rice and things to get rid of bugs. It dries them all out and does wonders for the human body. Adrian says it dries out bed bugs too. Yeah, so see, just get it and put it everywhere. I'm not giving medical advice. I do have a certification in integrative mental health, so I'm allowed to talk about supplements, but I ain't telling anybody to do anything. I'm just saying that, the United States is, pretty much the only place that says doing parasite cleanses are dumb and you dum-dums should not do it. Okay. And you guys know I always have an end screen that I don't, go over, but I just want to leave it right there for you to read it. And, whatever you think about it. I think, okay, Adrian says, do not put it anywhere. That is Muppet behavior. That is animal from the Muppet Show behavior. um, don't sound like Trump when I went. No, I don't. I'm not going to sound like any of them. Anyway, those things, that are there, hopefully you can read them. If not, take a screenshot, make it bigger. It's interesting. Oh, you can't see because I'm in the daggum way. Let me see if I can move myself. Can I move myself? Let's see. Oop, nope, that didn't work either. Let's try. You can't see what that thing is called. Okay, it just says "and the" right before the word truth. Just things to check out that you may not be aware of, that might have something to do with the tinfoil hat. I'm gonna leave it right there just for a minute. Adrian says I can inject bleach if I want. No, sir. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Dionysus says I got into DE before the pandemic, but during it I realized that horse dewormer media narrative made me use it during that pandemic. I like what you're calling the pandemic. Made me realize how prevalent these parasites really are. And it just, and I don't know why the government wouldn't want us to deworm. We're encouraged to deworm our dogs, and we're told our dogs are going to get worms, and the cats get worms, and the animals get worms, and worms are super prevalent, and they get worms, and they get worms, and they get worms, and then we say, well, I'm an animal, don't I get worms? No. Of course you don't get worms. Are you crazy? Leon doesn't want Adrian to drink or inject bleach either. Yeah, please don't. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what you deworm puppies with. I think. All right. Well, shout out to the replay gang because this is a journey. Hopefully I didn't freak anybody out and I don't freak out anybody in the replay gang. Again, it's tinfoil hat. Could be true, could be not true. When we get weird, we're just talking weird. We're having conversations, we're critically thinking, we're putting things together, or asking questions. I'm not saying it's true. The only thing I'm saying is true is the stuff that there's proof, right? The rest of it is we're just talking. We're just talking. Okay. I will say, on the last slide, all of those things are absolutely true. And there's tons of proof. We know these things, right? Leon says he got worms in Hawaii when he was in 3rd grade, picking up fruits and picking them out of trees. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we probably all have worms at this point, especially because we don't deworm. We deworm every single animal. And then we eat meat that the FDA allows a certain amount of worms to be in the meat. And then somehow think, and we eat fresh fruits and vegetables, and somehow think we don't need to deworm. I don't know. Okay. I hope everybody has a good rest of your Wednesday and you sleep well tonight. Ebony Knight says, are you supposed to eat or drink the dirt? Oh, you're talking about the earth, right? When you buy it, you mix it in water and drink it, but you can get different kinds. I would say do your research. If you're wanting to do that, do your research and find out the right anti-parasitic or parasitic cleanse that you want to do. Armando says, enjoyed the journey, lots to ponder. Adrian's happy about the meat. I appreciate the cash apps, guys. I want that book so bad. You have no idea. Rael says detoxing is a must, especially if you eat meat a lot. Adrian says, don't forget about the bug eggs in your grains and flour. Yes. We eat this stuff all the time, and then we don't detox. We don't use antiparasitics, right? Integrative mental health teaches that if you don't do detoxes and antiparasitics, it actually causes, not all of them, but it can cause mental illness, depression, anxiety. There was actually studies that were looking into see if ADHD was attached to a parasite. Now, it was, as far as we know, it was shown not to, but that's how important it is. Adrian's is happy weevil munching. How's your flour doing, guys? Everybody put your flour in the refrigerator, take it out of the cabinet, put it in the refrigerator. All right, everybody have a great Wednesday. This Sunday is paradoxes and what we can learn from them. So that one's going to be pretty interesting. So hopefully I will see everybody on Sunday. All right. Bye.